Good evening. I call to order the Lake Havasu City Council regular meeting on Tuesday, March 25th, 2025 at 5:30 p.m. Welcome. We'll start with an invocation from Ms. B. Evans, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Greg Logan and Trudy Hernandez with the Mojave Military Museum.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. Let's invite the Lord to this meeting. Heavenly Father, we just love you. We just know, Father, that your wisdom is more than anything we could even muster up. Father, we do invite you to this meeting. We just know, Lord, there are so many things and only so far that this council can go. But Lord, I know that these people individually have asked you for your wisdom, and your wisdom, Lord, so much higher than ours. So Lord, we just know that there is all kinds of needs in our city. We know, Father, we have children running, and we know we have parents running, and we know that there are policemen and firemen and firewomen all over who are doing their jobs. And we know, Father, that it's only because your hand is on us. And we trust you with that, Jesus. We just know that you promise to hold us in the palm of your right hand. So as the city of Lake Havasu invite you to this meeting, we thank you, Lord. We thank you for that palm that is so huge and so gentle. And we pray these things in your precious name, Jesus. Amen.
Good evening. Please join me with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you and welcome, Ms. Hernandez. If you'd like to share a little bit about the Mojave Military Museum.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members and staff. Thank you for the opportunity to be here this evening. My name is Trudy Hernandez, President of Mojave Military Museum Nonprofit. I am the daughter of a wartime veteran. I was born on a military base and spent the first 20 years of my life as a military dependent. I am a proud member of the VFW Post 9401 Auxiliary and entering my 5th year as Hospice of Havasu volunteer. Similar to board members Councilman David Diaz and retired Navy veteran Greg Logan, we are proud full-time residents of Lake Havasu City where we also perform community service outside of museum activities. It is always an honor and privilege to share the exhibit within our local community and county. Often visitors do not know what to expect prior to viewing a military museum exhibit, but as a smaller museum with a specialized focus, visitors get up close and personal to authentic U.S. military items dating back to World War II. Nearly everyone knows someone who has served, so exhibits for some are often emotional. We encourage visitors to look further, see more, and share. Comments, especially those from veterans, range from awe to admiration and gratitude. Mojave Military Museum Nonprofit is documenting history through historic vintage military-issued uniforms, photographs, and militaria, some once destined for landfill, to include insignia, medals, and other accoutrements. Our exhibits make authentic items and stories donated directly from our community tangible and very real. This is deeply personal for the people who have donated these meaningful objects to help articulate the stories of their families, friends, and loved ones. Again, everything is donated. Nothing has been purchased. Curation of these military keepsakes in Lake Havasu City go to great lengths to commemorate, honor, preserve, and highlight U.S. military service and is essential to Mojave Military Museum's 501 educational mission. Mojave Military Museum has been recognized by the Museum Association of Arizona, American Alliance of Museums, and Art Action Fund. Exhibitions have been on view at Lake Havasu City Hall, Mojave County Library and Senior Center, Arizona State University, Mojave Community College in Lake Havasu and Kingman, the London Bridge Resort, the views at Lake Havasu, and Lake Havasu City Airport. Where there was once a table and no seats in this proud veteran city, we often say we brought our own chair. Through the Perilous Fight is a permanent Mojave Military Museum exhibit right here in Lake Havasu's beautiful municipal courthouse. And we have a rotating exhibit installed at the Lake Havasu Senior Center. All exhibits are free and open to the public during normal business hours. Sometimes things we think are lost are only hidden, waiting to be rediscovered. We want visitors to look, learn, and remember, possibly even coming away different than when they arrived. Perhaps they have a better understanding of the sacrifice. We look forward to honoring those who served and remembering their sacrifices during Lake Havasu City's Vietnam Veterans Day this Saturday at the Friends of the Fair Rodeo Grounds at Sarah Park. Again, it is always an honor and privilege remembering the legacies. We consider ourselves custodians of the objects that tell those stories. We can be reached at mmmsalute@gmail.com for more information, to arrange for donations, and to schedule group presentations. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for keeping the history alive within our community. We appreciate the work you're doing.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Great. We'll move on to item 4, which is our roll call. Ms. Williams, will you please call the roll?
Council members Nancy Campbell. Here. Jenny Koch. Jim Dolan.
Here.
David Diaz.
Here.
Cameron Moses.
Here.
Vice Mayor Michelle Lynn. Here. Mayor Kalshihi.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 5 is our consent agenda. Would any of the council members like to remove any of the items for separate discussion?
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah, Vice Mayor Lynn.
I had a few people contact me, just some questions on item 5.5. Can we just have an explanation? I thought that we had done this agreement already, so can we just have an explanation on this?
Sure. Yeah, so we'll remove item 5.5. Would any of the council members like to remove any of the other items for separate discussion?
Mayor, motion.
Yeah, Councilmember Moses.
I'll move to accept the consent agenda minus 5.5.
Thank you.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Moses, a second from Councilmember Diaz. We are ready to vote.
Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you. And then we'll hear item 5.5, which is amendment number 1 to engineering architectural consultant master professional services agreement with CNS Engineers, Inc. to renew the agreement. Is that Mr. Kane?
Good evening, Mayor, council members. This is the master agreement was done in May of 2022. And so this is after the first 3 years. There are 2 one-year options, and this is the first of a 2 one-year option extension.
Are there any additional questions from members of council?
Quick question.
Yeah, Councilmember Diaz.
So this has nothing to do with the thing we did with the item for CNS we did about 2 council meetings ago, maybe 3. It's completely different. Okay.
Each within the master agreement, there are task orders. What we did last time was a task order under the umbrella agreement.
Yeah, so this master agreement, I believe, I'm going off my memory right now, but I think it expires May 1. So it renews for May, so that the master agreement gives us the opportunity to do business with them. And then the task orders, as Mr. Kane mentioned, is what we addressed a couple of meetings ago, and probably will have things come forward for other things in the future as well. Mm-hmm. All right. This is a public hearing. Would anyone like to address the city council on this item? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing, bring it back to council for a motion.
Mayor?
Yeah, Councilmember Dolan?
Motion.
Please.
I move to authorize the city manager to execute amendment number 1 to the engineering architectural consultant master professional services agreement with CNS Engineers, Inc. for an additional 1-year term.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Dolan, a second from Councilmember Campbell. Is there any additional discussion? Seeing none, we're ready to vote.
Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you. Item 6 is our correspondence, communications, petitions, announcements, and the city manager report. Item 6.1 is to announce on boards, committees, and commissions. Ms. Williams?
Mayor and City Council, this item is to announce vacancies on Lake Havasu City boards, committees, and commissions. The city currently has 2 vacancies on the Board of Adjustment with 1 regular member and 1 alternate member. Anyone interested can pick up a packet at City Hall, and they are also available on the city's website at lhcaz.gov. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 6.2 is our city manager's report. Good evening, Mr. Knutson.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council. Lots to share with you this evening, including at the end of the report. I'm going to ask our Deputy Public Works Director, Tim Kellett, to give us an update on what's been happening in Public Works over the last several weeks and months. So we have the Main Street Commons was named, and so thanks to the public and the voting that took place, we now have a name for the event space in the downtown area. So we'll announce the winner, and there's some prizes that go along with that. The goal is to have this space open and operational for events before Desert Storm, and Desert Storm is about a month out. So we should see some sod being placed here in the next this week, next couple of days, and we'll come back and after the opening and look at other improvements to the space, including possible restrooms and possible concession stand for the area. I'd like to update Council that the new lighting for the pickleball courts at Dixon Park are now up and operational. So thanks to the Parks and Recreation team for all they did to make this possible. And thank you for the donation that came from the Pickleball Club and Association to make this possible. I'd like to recognize Rachel Nutt, who was named the Teacher of the Year at the last the school district board meeting that took place. So congratulations to Rachel Nutt on all of her accomplishments. Well deserved. Thank you very much. Great picture. And then we had a ribbon cutting that took place. Sorry, I'm going up. I don't have any of my notes on this one. My screen's not doing this. Can I ask you, Mayor, do you recall what this ribbon cutting was for?
Yeah, this past Sunday, the Havasu Memorial Walkway, was unveiled their newest section of the walkway, and Councilmember Diaz and I were there Sunday morning, joining many citizens that were celebrating different honors of bricks that they've purchased for their family members.
Thank you, Mayor. What a great project, and it's nice to see the new bricks installed at the walkway. And then lastly, before Tim Kellett comes up to the podium, I'd like to share an event coming up that's hosted and organized by our Parks and Recreation Department. It's called Come Grow With Us, and it'll take place on Saturday, April 19th. Lots to occur with the kids and different activities, including planting plants and coloring eggs, and even the Easter Bunny is scheduled to make an appearance. So lots of great things. It is a $5 cost, and it's for ages 3 to 12. And again, that's coming up on April 19th. If you go to the city's website, you can sign up for that event or contact our Parks and Recreation Department for more details. And with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Kellett for an update. Kelly Williams, you have the PowerPoint up, and then Steve will make a switch back there.
Going there. Okay, mic's on. Very good. Good evening, Mayor, City Council. Honored to be here. Give you an update on things that are recent and even long-term things have been going on basically all fiscal year. Some of these updates are a little more recent things happening in Public Works, just ongoing. As you know, we're hitting the ground hard and keep working. We're going to start with the Water Department for tonight's update. A couple of the bigger pieces we want to talk about. There is a large water main replacement, repair that we completed. That was all done by city staff and with the contractor on a welding. Huge repair job, lots of time. Very proud of that work. We made upgrades to our Booster Station 5, both in its functionality and its reliability. Started the well rehab for well 9. Well 9 had been identified as a poor performing well. You guys actually authorized the work basically a month ago, and we've already got those columns out of the pipe. We're already working on that one. And then the much anticipated AMI water meter project is in full swing. We are replacing meters throughout the city as we speak. Moving on to the wash projects, two of our larger wash projects completed are the Queens Bay Wash, the crossing project there, and the new box culvert, as well as the improvements to Havasu Pi 6 wash improvements. That includes that riprap and flow control devices. In the wastewater department, completed the odor control at the North Regional Plant. Those pictures in the upper left-hand corner. Also put in a new groundwater monitoring well to replace an old well. That's what you see in that upper right. And the new lab building. We are at 100% design. So we are moving forward on that project as well. For the airport, we've hired our operations supervisor. Very happy to have him on board, already fitting in well with the team. During the month of February, had a lot of little planes flying in the air. Everybody saw it was 125 personnel and 15 T6 training planes that were here for the month that we hosted. Very successful. And then also had the runway lights. The signs and improvement project has been completed to 100% so far. In the street side, we already started and completed much of the yearly crack fill, chip sealing, and pavement sealant. Just give you some scope here. 640,000 square yards means really little, but 100 football fields of sealant, I think, really rings true with what's going on here. That's a lot of work getting done already this year. We've also repaved Jack Hardy Park and started construction on the City Fuel facility. For the building maintenance department, been doing a lot of work inside of City Hall. In fact, basically completed a complete remodel of the human resources and development services areas. Those are now done and ready for occupation. And then in the fleet department has outfitted 30 vehicles this year already. That's tremendous. They're short-staffed and somehow still getting this work done. Really appreciate all the effort they're putting in to get these vehicles out. Much needed vehicles. They're approved and they're finally showing up. On the capital improvement projects, the Main Street Commons, we already kind of talked about it. And yes, we're getting to the point where you're going to see some grass on the ground. So that's good. We still have that deadline of getting to Desert Storm as well. And then a big item for, again, kind of the wastewater side, but water resources overall. Vados wells 8 and 9 are now fully operational. Another 500,000 gallons per day that can be recharged into our aquifer. And then moving on to the, you see it all over town, the water main replacement, almost 2 full miles at this point done this year. It's a lot of work being done and they're really getting on top of that stuff. And then at the Mulberry plant, the aeration basin and the MCC, the motor control panel project has also been completed. Moving on to another capital improvements, we have the city core. This is a water line and paving project that included resurfacing the London Bridge and another 4,000 feet of water main replaced. And then another 1,000 feet of water main and road repaving on industrial. So you can tell they're just constantly out there moving. And then, of course, the big advertising project, the second bridge. You guys know we've completed the 20% design with NV5 and then hired Ames Construction to be the construction manager at risk on this project. On this one, city staff is meeting with the group every other week. So this is active. We are constantly pushing this project forward. And I was given 5 minutes. I think it was 4 minutes and 56 seconds. So I think that's all I have.
Mr. Kellett, thank you for the update. Obviously, that's just one of our city departments, one of a very, very, very busy city department. But thanks for all you do, and thanks for all the Public Works team does for Lake Havasu City. Yeah. And with that, Mayor, that completes my presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Knudsen. All right, we'll move on to item 7, which is our public hearings. This evening, we will have 6 public hearings. We do encourage you, if you are here on any of those items, to speak when we open up the public hearing. If you have any feedback or comments you want to add to the discussion during that time. At the end of the meeting, there will be a call to the public. That's when you'll be able to address the city council on items within the jurisdiction of Lake Havasu City. I'll go over that when we get to that section. Nonetheless, if you want to address council at all throughout the meeting during any of the public hearings, we ask that you just address the council directly and be respectful of your comments. We'll start with item 7.1, which is a Class B bingo license application for the VFW Post 9401. Ms. Williams.
Mayor and City Council, Paul Wilcox has applied for a Class B bingo license for VFW Post 9401. The applicant is applying for a new bingo license with games of bingo to be played on Sundays from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., and Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. at the VFW Post 9401 located at 266 London Bridge Road. The application was reviewed internally with no objections, and the application was provided to you in your packet, and the applicant is here today to answer any questions from the City Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Do any members of the council have any questions for Ms. Williams or the applicant? Seeing none, this is a public hearing. Would anyone like to address the City Council on this item? All right, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing, bring it back to council for discussion or possible motion.
Mayor, motion.
Yeah, Councilmember Campbell.
I move to recommend that the Arizona Department of Revenue approve a Class B bingo license for VFW Post 9401 and at 2666 London Bridge Road.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Campbell, a second from Councilmember Dolan. Is there any additional discussion? Seeing none, we're ready to vote.
Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you. Next is item 7.2, which is a Series 12 restaurant liquor license for Los Chicas Bar and Appetizers at 161 Swanson Avenue, letter C. Ms. Williams?
Mayor and City Council, Alfredo Elicidad has applied for a Series 12 restaurant liquor license for Los Chiquis Bar and Appetizers located at 161 Swanson Avenue, Unit C. All posting requirements have been met, all fees have been paid, and no protest or support letters were received during the 20-day public comment period. The location is properly zoned for a Series 12 liquor license. Happy to answer any questions. The application was provided to you in your packet, and the applicant is in attendance to answer any questions from the City Council.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from members of the council for Ms. Williams or the applicant? Yeah, Councilmember Diaz?
I have a question for the applicant. I'd like him to step forward if he's here.
Yeah, you could just make your way to the podium. Yeah, come on forward. Yeah. And if you could just state your name for the record, then Councilmember Diaz will have a question for you.
My name is Alfredo Lopez Elizalde.
Yeah,
I just want to give you an opportunity to do a little advertising, free advertising for your restaurant. Tell us about your restaurant.
Okay, it's open in the morning, 7 to 10 p.m. In the morning, it's a breakfast, regular breakfast and Mexican breakfast also. And a little lunch, the 11 to 3. In the night, it's only appetizer bar.
You are in the old Rotary building, restaurant building?
That one's is,
yeah.
They changed the name and the food also.
Good.
It's a breakfast.
Thank you. Good luck to you. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, are there any other questions or comments? All right, this is a public hearing. Would anyone like to address the City Council on this item? Right, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing, bring it back to council for a discussion or possible motion.
I'll make a motion.
All right, Councilmember Diaz.
I move to recommend that the Arizona Department of Liquor Licenses and Control approve a Series number 12 restaurant liquor license for Los Chiquis and Appetizers, 161 Swanson Avenue, number C.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Diaz. We have a second from Councilmember Dolan. Is there any additional discussion? Seeing none, we're ready to vote.
Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you. Item 7.3 is ordinance number 25-1357, amending Lake Havasu City Code Chapter 3.10 Procurement, including but not limited to adding and revising definitions and exceptions and increasing thresholds. This is an introduction. Ms. Olson?
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. This item, as indicated by the title, is an introduction of an ordinance to amend the procurement section of the municipal code. This amendment would actually, in staff's, after staff's research, God, I'm struggling right now. We believe that with all of the purchasing that is done throughout all of the departments, that we are able to
we will be able to improve the efficiency and the productivity in just the daily functions of all of the city departments. Every day there are constant procurement activities occurring throughout the departments, purchasing tools and equipment and other supplies in order to do our jobs to serve our community. So first question, we brought to you at the council planning session in January the concept of changing this code to reflect this amendment, to get some direction from council as to whether we should proceed to bring you more information. So why make these changes? As I indicated, we believe that it will result in a better use of time, resources, and funds for the city. This will optimize the procurement process by reducing the administrative burden, especially for the lower value projects and purchases. The volume of transactions that we do every day is immense. So any ability to simplify that and accelerate those small procurements should reduce delays and turnaround times in various projects. Secondly, we believe it's going to reduce the complexity and costs incurred through the formal solicitation process. Obtaining quotes, for example, right now, if the purchase is under $5,000, we can go ahead and make the purchase by just checking around and checking prices, but we can just get verbal quotes. If we increase that level from 5,000 to 10,000, that will allow more of the smaller businesses who might not want to participate in the not formal but more formal process of providing written quotes. That will allow them that opportunity to actually put in informal quotes through that process. Hopefully they'll be able to engage in more opportunities to do business with the city. Also, this will expand opportunities, as I mentioned, for expanding for the small and local businesses. A simple, informal purchase of $10,000 or less would allow those small businesses, such as plumbing services, electrical services, metalworks, asphalt and pothole repair, concrete and curb repairs. Those would be able to be not bid out, but we would be able to accept informal quotes or just written quotes for those items at the 10,000 or less, or up to over 10,000. So the verbal quotes would be up to 10,000. And then finally, this would put us in line with the comparable peers in similar Arizona cities. We did some surveys and checked our comparable cities, and about 70% of those cities were already at the $100,000 threshold. Currently, anything that is greater than $50,000 requires a formal solicitation and that it be brought to council for council approval. Increasing up to the 100,000 would allow us to bring those items to council for those that are greater than 100. For the cities, the other 30%, we determined, we were able to find out that for those that hadn't increased to that higher level, they just hadn't made any code changes to their thresholds in at least 20 years. So that was a little eye-opening for us. We did take a look at what the current best practices are throughout the purchasing industry. Many changes that are proposed this evening. As you'll see, we did attach a red line version of the item so that you can see all of the changes being proposed. Many of those are administrative in nature, in order to just enhance definitions, provide additional clarity, etc. And just a footnote, this does not include procurements governed by Arizona Revised Statutes Title 34, which is specific to public works construction projects. Again, most comparable cities are at the $100,000 and 10% levels. Again, I mentioned the $100,000. We took a look at what items came before council in the last 12 months. And of the 80 items that came before council, approximately 19 of those items would not have come to council. They were between the 50,000 and the 100,000. So it would only be a reduction of about 24% of items. So the vast majority of items would continue to come to council. Most of those items are already over $100,000. And as I mentioned on the 10%, we did take a look at contract amendments. Currently, the contract amendment threshold for council approval is at 5%. So if an amendment results in a dollar amount that is greater than 5%, and not more than $50,000, or if it is more than 50,000, that would come to council. If it's over 5% and more than 50,000. So increasing this to 10% levels, then the current threshold would be 10%. Any amendment that was over 10% would still come back to council for that amendment of that contract. And if it's over $100,000, it would come to council anyway, even if it was less than the 10%. Some of the updates recommended, there's a lot of information I know in the council communication. I did just want to highlight some of the updates that, in summary, we're proposing, in addition to all the administrative changes that you might see. Again, we would recommend that the council approval threshold be increased to greater than $100,000. Survey results also showed that the comparable entities have a contract amendment threshold of 10%. So we would recommend that our threshold go from 5% to 10%, not more than $100,000. And then another item, which you've seen a few of those at council in the recent months, are these job order contracts. So for job order contracts, under ARS Title 34, even though it's a construction project, it does allow for each city to set its own maximum dollar amount. It sets a dollar amount of $1 million as the maximum amount of that job order contract. However, it also allows for each entity to set its own maximum. So we're recommending, based upon what we've seen recently, that be increased to $2 million. And so we would return to council to, if a JOC, job order contract, is over $2 million, we would return to council to increase the maximum for that item. And then individual job orders greater than 100,000 would still require council approval. The increases that we're proposing for greater than 100,000 would also apply to the emergency purchases. So city manager would have approval to authorize expenditures greater than $100,000 for emergencies, but that would come to council after the fact for ratification. Adding approval language for multi-year contracts. The current practice, though not currently codified, is that multi-year contracts that cumulatively exceed the council threshold require council approval. So, for example, we might have a 5-year contract. For over that 5-year period, it's a $60,000 contract. The annual cost of being $12,000 per year. So $12,000 per year is under the council threshold currently. But over the 5-year period, it currently exceeds $50,000. So we do bring those contracts to council. We have included that same language, except it would be at the $100,000 level, to continue that practice, that we would look at a contract cumulatively for the total number of years that it covers, to determine the actual dollar amount that would determine that it come to council. So you would still see those, unless you wanted to change that. That's a council prerogative. Also, again, I mentioned the minor corrections and the enhanced clarity and definitions and clarification areas. Then the proposed change, if a contract amendment is greater than 10%, not more than $100,000, then if it's greater than, it would come back to council. For construction projects under Title 34, again, we would increase that job order contract amount to make the maximum $2 million per JOC instead of the $1 million currently in statute. And that is a quick presentation of all of those changes in your packet. So happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Olson. So as Ms. Olson mentioned, this first came to us in January at our annual planning session for us to have the initial conversations. This is now what it looks like in writing. So in summary, it would increase the city manager's threshold to $100,000. And a lot of the discussion throughout the community based on media reports and social media and otherwise was really focused on that number. But really the most beneficial is all of the down thresholds. So from the city manager, there's a director level, a manager level, and then support team members that are purchasing things. If they have to run to the store and grab a part, or they need a pump, or whatever it is that they might need, all of these expenses are already budgeted. So they're already in the approved budget. This doesn't change any of that. It's just what would come before a council. As far as the practice currently of you doing a cumulative contract, I like that. I think that's the most transparent. That's how the track changes language is in our packet today. It allows a taxpayer, a citizen, or us to be able to follow the process of a project or a contract or whatever might become before us, but that is in the track changes already. But I see the biggest benefit for efficiency for our team to be able to get the job done at lower expenses is through that down threshold that the department directors and below would be able to have to make those purchases. That would be very beneficial. And then also that 10% overage agreement. I think making those changes are going to make it so much more efficient. And then just to expand, Ms. Olson did a good job talking about, local bidders and why they might now want to engage in this process. Currently, if we need something, we have to get 3 written quotes, and 2 of the 3 know that they're not getting the job. And so it makes it very difficult for small places to want to be able to engage in that process because they know they're literally just doing work for one of their competitors to be able to get it on some of those lower threshold areas. That's where the local folks might want to engage more, because moving these thresholds would create that opportunity where that wouldn't have to be the case. It can be more of an informal, formal process. I believe those were your words, Jill, or Ms. Olson. So it might allow them to engage a little bit more in that process. But questions, comments from members of the council? Councilmember Diaz?
Question.
Yes.
What do we do now if something, if say $49,999 is spent? What? And I'm not talking about running to the hardware store and getting parts and stuff. I mean, that's obviously part of everyday maintenance. But is that anywhere online where not only us but the constituents can see what we're spending at those high dollar amounts? Is there a Excel spreadsheet somewhere that's you don't have to go through 20 different windows to get to it? Is it right there or?
I would say the best document's the CAFR, but Ms. Olson, maybe do you want to explain what documents are available online? There's not a spreadsheet of those expenses, but.
Right. And I've got my procurement staff here if they want to correct me, but I don't believe we have an existing report online that shows anything below the council threshold. But certainly anybody can request that record at any time. We can show what purchases have occurred.
And I guess what I'm getting at, so if we're going to, first of all, how long have we had this 50,000 threshold? When
About 10 years.
10 years. Yes. So I think it's time to, there's inflation. How can we maybe create something moving forward, but between the 50 and 100,000 range? Can we make that available for not only the council, but to the citizens to see what we're spending? And that's a lot of money, It should be available because it's the citizens' tax dollars. We should be able to look at it pretty easily. And I think that's something we should create. Anytime we spend, maybe it's a quarterly report even. This last quarter, we spent 10 items. They were 75,000 here, 60,000 here, 80,000 here, whatever it may be,
Is the quarterly report posted online, Ms. Olson? That's already done, the financial
quarterly report. It has total expenditures. It does not break out by item, like it was a $50,000 purchase or a $35,000. Everything's just lumped together.
I think we need to break it. Personally, we need to break it out. We don't need to lump it. A lump doesn't do us anything. We need to have it specialized or line itemed out, I think, personally.
And we do have situations where something's going to go over the threshold because cumulatively we may only have $5,000, $10,000, $4,000. And then staff keeps track of that. And as we see, if we see, oh my goodness, we might be going over 50,000 currently, then we know we need to get to council to get that annual for us to exceed the 50,000. So that report, if you only want single expenditures, just so I can clarify, single expenditures between 50,000 and 100,000?
Cumulative, either one, just if it's going to approach over that $50,000 to $100,000 range. You know, I don't think we have to reinvent the wheel. I think it's something that's basic, accounting. Yeah, so we should look at that. Thank you, Nancy. Then one other question I have on the exceptions. Section here on the exceptions. There's a ton of red. There's more red than white. I mean, more red than there's black. So what can we get an explanation of all these exceptions that we I guess we were not doing in the past, and now we just figure, let's do this?
This is an area where we definitely wanted clarification.
Okay.
There was enough, it was written in a way before where it kind of left a lot of room for interpretation. And so we wanted to narrow that down based upon the types of things that we've been doing and experiencing. So we tried to lay out all of that in here so it'd be more clear as to what truly is an exception and what isn't, so that we could reduce kind of that unknown area as much as possible.
More black and white, less gray matter. Okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
Mayor?
Yeah, Councilmember Campbell?
I appreciate this. I understand it. I have buyers, and the last thing I need to do is get in their way, especially if they're sometimes going over the threshold and return saving me a lot of money by doing it. So I totally understand this. All the staff that I hire, I have them in place because I trust them, and that's important to me. I do understand, though, I've been put in this position to be trusted as well with their tax dollars. And I do agree with Councilmember Diaz that he did state, I think for like a year or two, just so that we're familiar with whatever let's just say we get to that line item where you are going to have to go back to the city council and put it on the agenda and we could possibly, I'm going to use the word waste, a lot of staff's time doing that. I would recommend that we stop for a moment and just do a little note, you guys do memos all the time on the bottom of all your financials. It'll have a little note at the bottom, a little asterisk, just a little note that says, we did go over the threshold from 50 to 100 and a little quick little reason why. And we're not going to get into the weeds. I trust you guys what you're doing, but when we get the questions later, which I have gotten a lot of questions, and the thought process is, why are we giving the city manager all this? And I'm like, well, the city manager has a lot of employees underneath them and they all need to do their job. It's not like he's sitting there writing the checks and going, yes, you can have it. Yes, you can't. So I understand that. So I do agree that I think you understand what I'm saying. My direction is I do agree with Councilmember Diaz. Let's just stop for a minute and thank you because you're going to save a whole bunch of time because you're not going to have to come back to us for the 18 or 15 or 20 items. I hope it doesn't add a whole bunch to your plate. But in the meantime, we can go through and go, yeah. And I'm sure like all of my employees, when they tell me they had to spend more than they thought they were, I look at it, they explain it to me, and boom, there's no question because, I know that all the employees have the best interest of their job in place and doing the best that they can do. So I hope I made sense on that, but I do agree if we can put that in there somehow, amend the code a little bit to state that we would get a quarterly report for, let's say, 1 year that, from anything over the 50 to the 100,000 and or the 1 million to 2 million. I'm really interested to see what that looks like.
Mayor, just to clarify, we wouldn't necessarily need to codify that. We could certainly make that part of our quarterly procedures in preparing the financial report.
So it would just be shown in a certain department so we know what we're looking at?
And the quarterly report would be online so that we could either do it in the form of a footnote or even an extra memo attached to that.
I do. I like that.
Are there any other questions or comments from members of the council?
Mayor, one more question.
Yes.
Is this then, because it's a code change, it's going to be a second read. This is our first read.
Correct.
Just giving direction at this point. Correct?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Any other questions or comments before we open the public hearing? All right. This is a public hearing. Would anyone like to address the city council on this item? So just make your way to the podium and state your name for the record.
I just want to say, hello, Mayor, City Council. One, I just want to say thank you for everything that you guys always do. Today when I was coming to the meeting, I was filled with a lot of gratitude over my life, and living here in Havasu is amazing and a gift. And I just want to say that before I forget, because sometimes I forget to say it. Second, I just want to say thank you I was wondering if this process is going to eliminate Mr. Young from having to come up and ask you for new cars every other week.
If it's approved and the car purchases are over $100,000, then he will still be coming before us. If it's under $100,000, which generally it's not, then he will not be coming before us.
I still would like to recommend that on the days that he has to come up and ask you for new cars and stuff like that maybe you should put him at the front of the agenda and not the back of the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you.
I agree with that.
Would anyone else like to address the City Council on this item? All right, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing and bring it back to council. So Ms. Olson, just so I understand, so from the initial comment that Councilmember Diaz had mentioned, like my answer would be, why would we do this at all then? If we don't trust from 50,000 to 100,000, why are we doing it? And if we go to why is 100,000 now the number, and it's not a bigger number? And it's all of, again, the $100,000 isn't really the number. It's the number for the down threshold of those folks. So it's not called a P&L, but from a private sector entity, the quarterly P&L is posted, which, as in any P&L, has aggregate. So it says the cost for utilities is this, and the cost for fuel is this. It's not broken out in there that says, the cost of Unisource is here, there's Optimum's there. It doesn't have those expenses, but it has an aggregate utility costs. And so now what Councilmember Diaz and Councilmember Campbell had mentioned, you'll then have a separate spreadsheet that you'll be able to post online that will have from $50,001 to $100,000.
We will definitely have to do some work to filter out that information from the system and do the additional tracking to segregate those items, and then keeping in mind the additional cumulative items that may also need to then be on that list. And we would then create the list based upon that filtering from the financial system and be able to attach it to the report. It will definitely require more staff time.
But you have the technology to be able to pull that kind of data to then disseminate it that way?
We'll have to check. IT may have to write some kind of, they might have to do something within Oracle in order to filter that information in that manner. But I would say it's doable in some form.
Okay. And I want to make it clear, don't misunderstand. I trust our staff 100%. I'm just saying that we should have some transparency on those large ticket items, and it's a quarterly report. I mean, it's just basic accounting. You should be able to flag those items that are in that dollar range, and then ones that are getting close to. I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. I'm not an accountant, but I know there's software that does that. So.
And Mayor, I think with me, this, as she said, this was a lot of information all shoved into one item right here. And to me, it's more of an educational piece for me to just take a look at it to see. And that's why I said maybe just a year. Maybe it doesn't have to go through all the software. Maybe you do just the Excel spreadsheet, because the minute you make that decision that either I would have had to take this to council, but because now I don't have to take this to council, it's going to save us a lot of time for sure. That's all I'm saying, is it's for me to be able to go back to my constituents and say, hey, there was, yes, this item and this item, the 5 or 6 items, 10 items did hit that different threshold from the 50 to 100, but at least I have the transparency and the knowledge to inform them that I trust the way the process is going. Okay. And nothing more than that, but it's more education. And the other was the $1 million to $2 million. That's a big hit. And I don't really totally understand it. And it's not my job to totally understand it. But if I can kind of see it in black and white, I can clearly probably understand it a whole lot better. So again, if it's, a company that and we were talking about bid processes and, how the one part of the conversation that confused me, it was like, the bid process where two people know they're not going to get the bid, even though, and I don't know how that ever goes, because every bid we do, it's all signed and sealed and closed off, and nobody knows until they open that folder what the bid is. So I can understand $100,000 threshold. I get what you're saying, but I just want to see it. And if she's already stated it's not that big of a deal to do, so that's all.
Yeah. And, with all due respect, that's your opinion. My opinion, it is going to be very difficult to do. A couple of initial thoughts that I have is, let me just address the $2 million to make sure I understand that as well. The $2 million, that's just to come into state statute. That's literally just aligning our code to what state statute is. So we're not increasing anything. Hey, Ms. Gary?
Yeah. So under the state code, there's $1 million threshold for a single JOC. Task order that comes before us. And so, but we can by statute have a higher threshold. And so we now have had a couple JOCs that have come forward that have been above the 1 million. And so we've had to come and ask you to raise that limitation higher than the $1 million. And so all that this does is set a $2 million threshold, meaning that a task order under a JOC or a job order, or I don't know what we call it exactly, but that underneath that JOC can be up to $2 million. It still is going to come back to council. Like, none of this is going to happen without you approving it. It's just allowing those projects to be a little bit bigger than just limited at $1 million. Because then if it goes over that $1 million, we either have to come to you and ask to raise the JOC in that process, which is kind of a little strange, or we have to do a totally different type of solicitation, which wastes a lot of time. And so it's just another tool in the toolbox to allow us to have some efficiency for some of those bigger projects.
Thank you. Okay. Yeah. So no matter what, it's coming before us. It's just allowing. Okay. Gotcha. Does that clarifies it much better for me. The members of the council with as far as the additional reporting, I mean, we'll be able to get some additional information. Would it suffice? So we know last year it was 19 items would not have come forward.
Correct.
So maybe at our next meeting, we could have a summary of what those 19 are to see what it is. Because again, if we're going to do something, we have to do it all the way. Why are we just all of the information's available. We can get all of it. So if it's just from an educational standpoint, we can say, these are the 19 that would not have come forward. And why is that? Vice Mayor Lynn?
Mr. Mayor, yeah. I think what we're missing though, those 19 items, how much over the 50,000 were they? Were they 5,000? Were they 25,000? Because that 50 to 100 is a big jump. So I think for me, the concern, I actually have the same comments that Councilmember Campbell and Diaz had. I think that is a big jump because it's not those little things that we have to add. It's that big item. If we came in and we have to, buy a pipe or something and it's 5,000 over, if it's $50,000 over, that's a big jump on something. So I would like to see it. If there's not that many items.
Yeah, so the majority of the items are, Ms. Olson had mentioned it might be $5,000 from this vendor for this. And then next month it's $10,000. And then the next month it's $20,000. And then it gets to the point that it's over $50,000, cumulatively. And that's when it comes before us. It's not a project that's $50,000 that's coming necessarily.
Can we see maybe just those items then? Maybe just those specific big items.
The cumulative item. Oh, so just the items that are not cumulative.
Yeah, maybe.
Just items that are larger. Yeah.
We already have that list, Mayor.
Okay.
We can provide that at the next meeting.
Next meeting. Perfect. Okay. All right. Any additional comments or questions?
Just a clarification of direction. If I'm hearing you properly, we're just getting that list this next time and we're not going to be able to see that list again in a year from now or 6 months from now. Like a new one between 50 and 100.
Yeah, so we're giving direction right now. So if we adopt this introduce this ordinance as is in front of us this evening, the next meeting we'll have some additional information. That will be the time where we do the final adoption, where we give final direction, whether that's a report that's quarterly posted or not, or if we're going to move it from 50,000 to 100 or not.
Well, my direction again is, I know you're disagreeing with me, but my direction is just for 1 year. I would like to see what we did in 1 year after we did almost 100% increase on our caps. I would like to see what we used it for. And I'm sure it's perfectly fine, but the like I said, the sake of education, I am looking forward to seeing your report just to see what that looks like. But in the meantime, so I can
Mr.
some of the concerns out there. That's
Sure.
what I was hoping for.
Yeah, Mr. Knudsen.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. Sure, listening, and I think transparency is of the utmost importance. So staff's listening to Council in kind of that direction. Let us take a look at some of the software capabilities and our ability to kind of pull some things together. We'll come back at the next Council meeting when this item's up for adoption with a plan and see what that looks like. Now, just so we're on the same page, it's capturing a 1 year process in the code might not be the most appropriate thing to do, but if council is giving direction to staff, to myself, and through myself to staff, that we want to see that report as described, we will do that. That's something that we're listening and we can accomplish something along those regards. So we'll come back with some ideas, present council with some options, and yeah, of course, transparency. Everything we do at the city is transparency. So we're just grateful for the trust the council is placing on the city team. And what we're trying to accomplish here is reducing the cost of the city doing business. And if we can accomplish that through this effort, we'd be very grateful and would be willing to look at those options.
Thank you.
So, Mayor, if I'm hearing him correctly, then we don't have to put this in the code, but at any particular time, I could probably request this information to either one of you and say, hey, I want to see last year, and we don't have to know if nobody else in this council cares what we are spending that money on, then that's up to me to ask for that information personally.
Correct.
I would be able to access that information. Thank you. I appreciate that.
And that goes for any type of information for any of us or any of our citizens that want information. So, right. Do we have a motion?
Mayor?
Yeah. Councilmember Dolan?
Motion?
Yes.
I move to introduce ordinance number 25-1357, amending Lake Havasu City Code, Chapter 3.1, Procurement.
All right. We have a motion from Councilmember Dolan, a second from Councilmember Diaz. Is there any additional discussion? Seeing none, we're ready to vote.
Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. The next item is item 7.4, ordinance number 25-1358, amending Lake Havasu City Code, section 2.57.111, municipal court administrative fee schedule and jail cost recovery to revise the court enhancement fee. Judge Clowley.
Well, Mayor and Council, I appreciate the opportunity to address you this evening. Like Ms. Olson, this is brought to you as a first read to hopefully receive direction and the next time we come for approval. When the city was incorporated, a court enhancement fee was established at $10. That court enhancement fee was designed kind of like a rainy day fund, but also to be utilized for purposes like our youth court and sound equipment and other things as we moved along. So it was established at $10. We haven't come before the council to change that in over 40 plus years, 50 years. And the only reason we're coming before council now is because this last legislative season, there was a 1% clean election increase and a $20 first responder death benefit, another fee that the legislature decided to impose. The county, because of that, added $10 to their court enhancement fee, so it's now $20, and we're requesting to be able to do the same thing so that we can keep that money where it should be, which is here with the city.
Thank you, Judge. Are there questions from members of the council for Judge? All right, this is a public hearing. Would anyone like to address the city council on this item? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing, bring it back to council for discussion or possible motion.
Mayor?
Okay, Councilmember Dolan?
I'll make another motion. I move to introduce ordinance number 25-1358, amending City Code Section 2.56.111.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Dolan, a second from Councilmember Campbell. Is there any additional discussion? Seeing none, we're ready to vote.
Motion carries 6-0.
Mayor, Council, thank you.
Thank you. Item 7.5 is ordinance number 25-1359, approving the plan development rezone and general development plan of 3485, 3489, and 3493 Maricopa Avenue, tract 2217, block 17, lots 8, 9, and 10, approximately 0.92 acres from commercial Southgate district to commercial Southgate plan development district to allow outdoor entertainment for a mini golf course and outdoor rock climbing wall to the height of 50 feet above the approved maximum grade. Mr. Kearns.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. The subject properties measure 0.92 acres combined and are currently vacant. They are located on Maricopa Avenue between Pecos Drive and Outpost Drive. The abutting properties to the east and west are zoned Commercial Southgate District and undeveloped. The properties to the north are zoned Residential Southgate District and are a mix of vacant and developed residential uses. To the south is Maricopa Avenue and Highway 95. The underlying land use for the subject properties and surrounding properties is commercial mixed use. The proposed project complies with the existing underlying land use. The applicant's letter of intent asks for an exception to allow outdoor entertainment use to facilitate an outdoor mini golf course and rock climbing wall. The letter of intent also asks for a height exception to allow a 50-foot tall outdoor rock climbing wall. The proposed project conforms to the adopted parking and common master plan. If the exceptions are approved, this rezone request complies with the required findings of the development code and is compatible with the surrounding neighborhood. The Planning Commission voted 7-0 to recommend approval of the general development plan and plan development rezone approval requested by this application at its February 19th, 2025 meeting. I'll be happy to answer any further questions. The applicant is also in attendance and also has a presentation.
Perfect. Would the applicant like to make their presentation, and then we'll open up to comments and questions from the council? Yeah, thank you. Welcome.
Hello, City Council. Thanks for having us. Thank you, Trevor, for your presentation. We have a small slideshow here to share for our project at 3489 Maricopa Avenue. So going to the next slide here. We have an aerial map showing the location of the project along with a conceptual site plan. Conceptual site plan shows the outdoor mini golf course area along with location of the outdoor rock climbing wall. And also on there is a proposed building footprint that would be for a bar or restaurant building. Right now with the current zoning, that bar or restaurant, that's an allowable use. So what we're doing the rezone for is only for the outdoor mini golf course area and the rock climbing wall. In our next slide here, we have a 3D model for reference of that rock climbing wall. And we have some heights tagged there for the building adjacent to it. We have a 36-foot mark just to show the, as currently zoned, 36 foot would be the maximum building height above grade. Right below that, we have a 25-foot height. We project that to be somewhere in the ballpark of what the building height would actually be. And then we have the 50-foot height for the rock climbing wall itself. In our next slide, we have advantages. For the first bullet point, this development will add to the available recreational activities for children, teens, adults, and an ever-growing Lake Havasu City community. Personally, for myself, having lived here all my life, it's been great seeing the community expand and also just having more recreational activities added. Altitude over by the shopping center is one I can think of right off the bat. So having this as another option is going to be great. Next bullet point is we are proposing a restaurant with an outdoor 18-hole miniature golf course with the course to include artificial turf, landscape rock, boulders, and water features, similar to the pictures that you see there. The restaurant and outdoor entertainment will be known as Dimple's Adventures. For the site design, we're working with famed miniature golf course designer Harris Miniature Golf Courses, Inc. Along with the miniature golf course, we're also proposing an up to 50-foot tall outdoor rock climbing wall. Fundraising events will be held where partial proceeds from both the miniature golf course and the rock climbing wall will be donated to local nonprofits and charities. So anything you could think of from first responders, schools, animal shelter, and so on. So other features, the fun is not limited to just the outdoor entertainment. The miniature golf course and rock climbing wall will complement a restaurant and bar at the west portion of the site, as was shown in that conceptual site plan. The restaurant and bar will include other entertainment such as karaoke stages, indoor batting cages, and video game arcade. And just echoing Mr. Kern's presentation, a plan development overlay would need to be applied to the CSGD zoning that will allow for the outdoor entertainment for a mini golf course, outdoor rock climbing wall, to a height of 50 feet above the approved maximum grade. And that concludes our presentation.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Are there questions from members of council for Mr. Kearns or the applicant?
Mayor, I was looking at it. What is the building next to you? To the left. I mean, if you're looking at the highway, looking at the front of the building. You said there was a building to the left of it. That was 36. I was looking at that site map a little bit. I was trying to figure that out.
Yeah. So
it's Rotary Kitchen. Oh, gotcha. So there is a couple lots in between that. Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, Councilmember Diaz.
Just for the constituents' information, there were some questions during the P&Z regarding lighting and noise. Just tell me what your hours of operation are, and then how did you guys address the lighting, possible lighting concerns?
Of course, hours of operation we haven't gotten too into detail on, but really, most restaurants in town, I'd say close, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. We would probably be in that range for closing time, and with that. Close time, I feel like that would be, good closing time for, avoiding any lighting issues with neighboring properties. We understand we have residential to the north, so.
Well, I know the citizens are always asking about, we need new recreation possibilities for our residents, and this is right in that wheelhouse. So thank you for bringing this to us.
Sure.
Are there any other questions from members of the council before we open the public hearing? All right, this is a public hearing. Would anyone like to address the city council on this item? Yeah, just make your way to the podium and state your name for the record.
Hello, Bonnie Toy. One, I noticed that on the picture that he presented, there was only 2 handicap spots in the whole thing. And I don't understand what the regulations are, of course, for handicap parking. It doesn't seem to me like 2 handicap spots, it would be enough and, or logical. And then, he talked about the lighting in regards to the neighbors, but what about the lighting and will it affect the highway? Like people on the highway as they're driving by and poof, lights. Just curious.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so the parking requirements as far as handicap will meet code, and so will the lighting will also meet code. And the specifics of the requirements are in city code.
Isn't the city code for the lights to be dimmed at night, 25 knots, whatever the lumen, I don't know I know I'm supposed to have a 25 thingamabopper on my light bulb thing on my porch.
This is a commercial district, so it's a little bit different, but you can see all the specifics on the code that's on our website.
It is on your website. Drives me crazy. But I was concerned when you said that about the lights and will it affect drivers as they're driving down the highway?
Yeah, would anyone else like to address the city council on this item? All right. See, now we'll bring it back to council for discussion or possible motion.
I'll make a motion.
Yeah. Councilmember Diaz?
I move to adopt Ordinance number 25-1359, approving the planned development rezone and general development plans of 3485, 3489, and 3493 Maricopa Avenue, tract 2217, block 17, lots 8, 9, and 10, from commercial Southgate District to commercial Southgate Planned Development District to allow outdoor entertainment for a mini golf course and an outdoor rock climbing wall to a height of 50 feet above the approved maximum grade.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Diaz, a second from Councilmember Dolan. Is there any additional discussion? Seeing none, we're ready to vote.
Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you. All right, the next item in our final public hearing is item 7.6, cooperative purchase agreement for the purchase of solar-powered illuminated rectangular rapid flash beacon pedestrian crossing systems from Traffic and Parking Control, Inc. Mr. Young.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm here to hopefully make Main Street just a little safer. We'd like to purchase 18 solar-powered traffic signals that will work in sync with each other at Scott, Aquario, Mulberry, and Birch. There will be 4 on each corner, 1 on each corner, with a total of 4. When one is pushed, they will all light up and light the crosswalks, as well as the picture you see on the screen. At Pima Wash, we'll have 2 there, and it will do the same thing. Light and the rapid flashing beacons will alert drivers to pedestrians. With that, I'll take any questions.
Are there any questions from members of council for Mr. Young?
Mr. Mayor?
We'll start with Vice Mayor Lynn, and then we'll go to Councilmember Campbell.
I just have a quick question. Is our staff going to be the one putting these in?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Campbell?
My question is the synchronization on that street. I see how cars get backed up immensely. So I don't know how much more traffic this may create, not to mention we have our lights on Acoma and also on Smoke Tree. And if there was a way that those could be like, so basically anybody that walks up to it immediately lights, or does it hold them back? Like say, stop, wait. So at least, you know, that synchronize the traffic can flow a little bit and then they walk, you know, not just like every street light versus every time you push this, all cars have to stop. And
okay, so number 1, it lights automatically.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2, the pedestrian has to look both ways before they step out into it. They should choose to do so. The law in Arizona is once the pedestrian is out of the drive lane, that you're safe to proceed. It doesn't stop the cars. It just it says pedestrians are coming in, and the police slow and stop and let them pass. But once the pedestrian is out of the lane, that car can travel.
Yeah.
Which button? Yes.
If I may, I think what Councilmember Campbell's asking is that when you're driving down or up McCulloch, and if there's a pedestrian stopping traffic, like every time the pedestrian goes, they get immediate right of way. All cars have to stop. Then you go to the next one and another pedestrian does that. Is that what you're asking, Councilmember Campbell?
That's what I'm asking. And if they all light up, then I'm worried about the next one just stopping because they're seeing a light. And not only that is you can go to a
They don't light up all the way up the street.
Okay,
they just
good.
light up at the intersection.
Good. The comment that I'm having is no different than a street light that you see. As the pedestrians all wait for all the traffic to go through, I almost see that technology on McCulloch is almost needed because of the danger factor. And try and get off Scott Drive someday and try and get up or down McCulloch. It's almost impossible. And then that's why we have so many accidents with pedestrians as well in the broad daylight, is because it is there's visual issues, items that, what am I trying to say? Visual issues. Yeah, that you can't see around cars. I was on that street for almost 20 years. I heard the number of accidents. So I know we need to do something. I know it's so important to keep our pedestrians safe, especially at night. So I love the idea. I'm just wondering how we can synchronize with our traffic lights and make everybody stop on the street before they can go across, because there's a lot of crosswalks on that street.
With these particular ones, we will not be able to synchronize with the signals. Each intersection will react on its own per the button. And once it's cleared from pedestrian, the traffic is allowed to move.
And I think for $75,000 to protect somebody's life, because you can see them, it's good. But there is a serious traffic issues, and I think it's just going to get backed up more. I was heard today that the new downtown or the Main Street Commons was talking about having up to 2,000 people attend concerts, and I can just really see this. This is going to be hard for cars to drive through on McCulloch in the very near future.
It's no different than the bridge lights.
Yeah.
Crosswalks on the bridge by Javelina, and they light up once the pedestrian, and we had the center signs up Main Street as well that basically said the same thing: yield to the pedestrians.
Right.
So these lights are officially doing.
All right. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah,
I just want to add to that. So these are similar to the ones like on the island and the bridge, but not like Pima, because we're not Pima.
It's not just flashing.
Yeah, Pima over there where it's the red flashing and then people walk through and it's still red and people sit there.
Yes.
So, and I think the other thing to point out is that people are crossing those. We have to stop for people in crosswalks anyway. It is the law. So this is just lighting it up, letting you know, hey, there is a crosswalk there, and teaching my daughter how to drive. I'm teaching her, you drive the same roads every day. You got to get used to these where the crosswalks are, and you got to look to see if there's somebody, so this just kind of brings attention to them. And it's not the flashing red, it's like flashing yellow, I believe.
It's just
like the island. So I think it's a great
actually
idea.
let you know they're there to cross. And like you said, to the visual impeding, how many times you go up and you don't see the person because they're standing back on the sidewalk. They're not even out past the car where you can see them. This will help with that.
I agree. And so I did like the technology that you were talking about. I think that's what I was trying to say, is there is that flashing red that tells that pedestrian, don't walk until you get X amount of cars by, but we're not there yet. Maybe in the near future once we have more events down there. Thank you much.
Are there any other questions or comments from members of council? All right, this is a public hearing. Would anyone like to address the city council on this item? Yeah, just make your way to the podium and state your name for the record.
I'm going to bring a little guest speaker for that one. I completely agree with these. I think that they should be on the bike path as well. So I want to bring that to your attention. He was hit in a crosswalk with an audible beep in August by a driver. He was waiting at the crosswalk, looked both ways. Driver came from behind him, turned into him, and knocked him off his scooter into the street. So coming from a parent and a child who has been through a trauma at our hospital, I absolutely wholeheartedly believe in these. And it'll make our kids safer, make our pedestrians safer.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah, could you tell us your name?
Jennifer Blair, sorry.
Yeah, thank you, Jennifer. And then what intersection was that at?
Mulberry at the highway.
Okay. All right, thank you. Yeah. Yeah, just make your way to the podium, state your name for the record. Yeah. Oh, yeah, please.
Yeah, Mulberry is where the only corner that you can't turn right on red. Is that going to change, or nobody mentioned that?
Oh, no, this isn't even about Mulberry at all. Yeah, this is Mulberry and McCulloch.
I'm sorry,
our project in front.
95.
That incident occurred at Mulberry in 95, but
that didn't change.
No. Can you also, we need your name.
Corner that you can't turn right on red, right? At Mulberry.
We need your name for the record real quick. Could you let us know your name?
Joe Costello.
Thank you. I'm not sure if that's the only one you can't turn right on red, but yeah, we're up on McCulloch right now. Yeah, please.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. My name is Robin McElroy, for the record. I had one question regarding the lights up and down McCulloch. When we have events up and down there and the street is shut down for pedestrian traffic, and sometimes it's nice at twilight or evening time to not have lights there. Will there be the ability to turn those lights off so people just aren't turning them on and off and on and off when the street is shut down for events?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, Mr. Young, do you have the answer to that?
I believe we probably could shut them down if we so choose. So, I don't see why we couldn't do that.
Perfect. Thank you. Yeah.
Hi, Bonnie Toy, pedestrian. I like being a pedestrian. I also drive my car, but I prefer being a pedestrian. And I just want to say that I think that these particular crosswalks are designed not very wise. They, on the bridge, and I completely will tell you that on the bridge, when you just go there and sit and watch all night, all day, whatever, when people go up to use them, you can only see the sign for it to be used from one side. So if somebody's walking to the crosswalk, has never been to a city, do you know in Canada they don't have stoplights? A friend of mine lived in Saskatchewan. She said they didn't have street lights. They had stop signs. So if you walk up to the crosswalk, they don't know that they're supposed to, people from not Havasu, they're not going to know that they're supposed to push the button so that cars will stop. At crosswalk, cars should just stop. They should be paying attention to the pedestrians. On McCulloch, you have those 4 intersections, but you have the whole street, Main Street, from Smoke Tree all the way up to Acoma, where people are continuously jaywalking. Those signals, crosswalks that you're proposing to put in there are not going to stop people from jaywalking from the Flying X to Red Robin. They're just not. Not Red Robin, Red Onion. And the flashing light, or the light when it's lit, will be a distraction up above. If there's any way to get it where the light was down lower so people could actually see there's someone in the crosswalk, not just some flashy thing above, that might maybe be helpful. But the signage for the light, I think, is a really big issue for the people who don't use crosswalks on a daily basis, who don't know that, hey, I need to let drivers know, because drivers aren't paying attention, because drivers don't care when they're driving that there might be pedestrians around. And I know that's not always the case. It just feels that way sometimes when you're the pedestrian. And also, I brought up a few months ago, a friend of mine lives on Swanson and Riviera. That place needs a crosswalk like crazy. She was walking to work this morning, and she sent me a message and says, "Hey, Bonnie, somebody told me, random stranger, that we need a crosswalk right here on Riviera and Swanson." I laughed at her and said, "Do you know what they're discussing tonight at the city council meeting?" So I wanted to make sure I discussed the fact that Swanson and Riviera needs a crosswalk. Also, I have been told, because I did mention that the park, the Circle Park on McCulloch, needs a crosswalk because it's unsafe. And I was told by someone that you couldn't put a crosswalk on there because it would actually put pedestrians in danger, because pedestrians need to be paying attention and aware of the drivers just as much as the drivers need to pay attention to them. Anyway, I think that solar-powered, illuminated, rectangular, rapid flash beacon pedestrian crossing systems do not work on the bridge. I don't think they're going to work very well on McCulloch. And as Councilmember Campbell mentioned, you will be backing up traffic, and it'll be even more confusing because the pedestrians really won't know what they're supposed to do or not do unless you have the right signage. That's my thoughts. Sorry.
Thanks for sharing. Would anyone else like to address the City Council on this item? All right, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing, bring it back to council for discussion or possible motion.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, Vice Mayor Lynn?
I have one other question.
Yes.
So I happen to have done a huge project on this when I was in college at ASU. And one of the crosswalk signals that they had on the bridge, there was a mechanism in it that went out, and it took like forever to repair. Like it was a big caution sign that was on there forever. Do we have a warranty, or how these mechanisms work, or like will they break down easy?
Yes,
you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, we have taken that in fact, we're trying to fix some on Magnolia as we speak. And we're probably going to end up, because they ran out of, just like vehicles, they get old and parts quit coming. So we're probably going to be replacing those as well. However, we are putting those things in the plan to make sure we have parts available for when these things do happen. And they do come with a manufacturer warranty.
Perfect. Yeah, I just know that one, it was out like forever, and people are pressing on it. I'm like, do you see the caution tape? It doesn't work. So, okay, thank you.
Any additional discussion? We're going to entertain a motion.
Mayor?
Yeah, Councilmember Dolan?
Motion?
Please.
I move to approve and authorize the city manager to execute the cooperative purchase agreement with Traffic and Parking Control Company Incorporated, and approve the purchase of 18 solar power illuminated RRFB pedestrian crossing systems in the amount of $75,748.91.
Second.
All right, we have a motion from Councilmember Dolan, a second from Councilmember Moses. Is there any additional discussion? Seeing none, we're ready to vote.
Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you. All right, item 8 is our call to the public. This is where citizens have the opportunity to address the City Council on items within the jurisdiction of Lake Havasu City. Your comments are limited to 3 minutes. There will be a light indicator box on the screens throughout the room. Again, we ask you just to address the council directly if you have any comments. You don't have to sign up for a call to the public, but we did have one citizen do so. So we'll start with Mr. Nicholas Black, and then we'll open up to anyone else who would like to address the council.
Hello, my name is Nicholas Black. I'm a resident for Lake Havasu City. I have 3 questions. One of them was, my grandmother, Alvina Young, takes care of me because I'm disabled. I have cerebral palsy for 3 months old. I actually live on Inyo, and I guess you guys have the roadblock off. I'm trying to figure out how long that's going to be done. And then another question I also have is if you guys know if the water is safe, the tap water, do you know if that's safe to drink? Those are and then I believe that's all I was curious about.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Black. During call to public, we can't respond during that time, but we can listen intently. But maybe Mr. Kellett can connect up with you and get you some answers to those questions. So yeah, thank you for being here. We did get another citizen sign up. So is Miss Victoria Reeves? She had to take off. You should leave early, it looks like. All right, so now we'll open it up to anyone else that would like to address the council. Just feel free to make your way to the podium and state your name for the record.
Rick Wheeler, head coach for the Havasu Stingrays. You guys all know me. You've seen me here. I just wanted to come up and thank you, parents, for coming tonight. I really appreciate that. Swimmers, too. Master swimmer back there. I just want to know if we can get any concrete direction on what's going on with the new city pool build. Back in October, we met. I don't know if I can use names or not, but I met with, we had a big roundtable with Gabby, Phil, Swan, Guy Reynolds, Matt, Julia, and myself, and we all got together and we did a wish list of the biggest, nicest, beautifulest pool that we could ever dream of. We put all that stuff together. We left it there. We went away. In January, the city planning meeting, I went to that meeting as well, and it was, Gabby had mentioned that there was already design works in progress for that pool. I kind of got rejuvenated again, started thinking. I reached out and asked if we could get kind of a design. So I had something to go discuss with companies to possibly help with some funding of that. I've got no response back from that. So I'm just trying to find out what we're going to do, if we're even doing a pool anymore, because I was told we were supposed to be doing this starting in July 1st. We were going to be digging dirt. I don't know where we're at with any of this. So I would just like to ask, where do I go from here? Where do we go? And that's pretty much what I got. I did get a reply today from Ms. Gabby saying that we're seeking quotes to get an idea of cost. I was back in October. We're now in March. So again, I don't know where we are with all this. So I'd just like to get some answers if we could. So thank you guys very much for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening. I was asked and requested, Bonnie Toy, to mention to the city council that you guys should consider taking the parking lot across from Site 6, closing it off during holidays or the summer or whatever, and charging people to park there for different events. And also but not people, non-residents. And also to consider charging non-residents for the use of Rotary Park and London Bridge Park, because recently Bullhead City has been doing that more. And it would help with funding in Havasu if non-residents were paying for the use of those parks. And then I noticed, I went to that development meeting the other day. It was really cool. And he plans on having this huge marina and public access to the beach. He was amazing with everything that he was saying, except he kept calling it free public access, except that he totally intends to charge for parking. Like, wait, it's only free if you walk in or ride your bike in. But if you go in there and you park, then he gets to charge you for it. Or that was what his goal is. And in my brain, I was like, that's not free. And why isn't the city doing that? So there you go. Thanks.
Thank you. Oh, Mr. Wheeler, you get one opportunity.
I got one more really quick. Rick Wheeler again. Just a fun fact for you guys. So the Havasu Stingrays have been in the community for 30 plus years. Okay. In those 30 years, if I kind of did a little rough estimate of math, I'm not very good at that. But the Stingrays nonprofit organization has given back to the city about $250,000 in those 30 years. And I did about a $700 a month for 30 years. So it's kind of significant. I don't know any other youth program that has been in the community for that long and has given that much back. And now we're just trying to ask for a pool outside so we can continue that. That's without saying all of the money that has been brought in from swim meets over those 30 years that we have hosted here for hotels and restaurants and things like that. So that's all I wanted to leave you with. Thank you.
Would anyone else like to address the city council? All right, call to the public. All right, seeing now, we'll close the call to the public, bring it back to council for item 9, which is current events. Are there any current council committee reports? Our future meetings, our next meeting is on Tuesday, April 8th, 2025 at 5:30 p.m. It's a regular meeting. And then on Tuesday, April 22nd, 2025 at 5:30 p.m., we will also have a regular meeting. Item 11, are there any future discussion items?
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, Vice Mayor Lynn?
Would it be possible to have an update on the outdoor pool? Could we have that discussion update on where that's going? Because I do know it's still in our budget. Could we have that before the budget session?
Yeah, the budget session will be in the month of April.
Yeah. Mayor and Councilmember Vice Mayor Lynn, we do have our CIP budget work session that's coming up in April 10th. So in 2.5 weeks, we're going to talk about all of our CIP projects, including the second pool. That's actually before.
So we'll be talking about it at that meeting, or do you want a separate?
I would like a separate discussion on it.
2 days earlier.
That'd be 2 days earlier. Yeah.
Or
Yeah, I think that would be fine because I think that would be good leading into the budget.
Okay, do we have a second?
Yeah, I have a second.
Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second. We'll talk about that 2 days before. We'll talk about it again 2 days later. All right. Motion to adjourn. We are adjourned. Thanks for being here. Be kind. We'll see you next time.